Josiah and I were friends, at church and stuff, but outside of church, we never really hung out, never really talked. And then I heard that he made this decision, and I was like, dang, that's something that I've been talking about my entire life, and this guy's jumped on it already.
Wow.
And,
okay. I see.
So I'm like, wake up call, okay. Really. Like, that's what it was. And I was like, dang, that's an option for me.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Grace Again podcast, an ongoing conversation with the people of Grace, where we talk about things such as church and life and culture and theology and a lot of other things too, just to share stories together and to learn from one another and extend grace to one another. Welcome to the program. I'm your host, John Harris. This is beta episode number 5 that we recorded on Tuesday, October the 18th, 2016. And in this segment, I am so excited to welcome to the Grace Again podcast, Mr. Connor McDuffie. And we're going to have a great conversation with Connor about his life in the Army and how he arrived there and how God brought him through high points and low points to get him to a place where he right now is serving in the Army in Anchorage, Alaska. So I want to welcome Connor to the program and look forward to this. And so Connor, welcome to the program, and I just want to ask you to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are, and then we'll have just a great conversation about your path you're walking down right now.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm Connor McDuffie. Parents are Scott and Jackie McDuffie. From Atlanta, Georgia, more specifically Marietta, Georgia. Grown up, same 10-mile area my entire life. Grown up at Grace Community Church. Been there for 21 years now. So Grace is like family to me.
Yeah.
Right now I'm living in Anchorage, Alaska, serving with the United States Army.
Oh, wow. Okay, so, and how long have you been up in Anchorage, Alaska?
So I've been in Anchorage since, I believe it was June 11th was when I actually PCS'd here. And
what does PCS mean?
Permanent change of station.
Okay.
So I moved from Fort Benning, Georgia, which is where I did basic training. Did basic training there, and then went right into airborne school. Completed airborne school 3 weeks later on June 10th, and then by June 11th, I was here up in Alaska.
Wow. So you've been there 3 or 4 months or so? I'm trying to calculate that.
June, July, August, September, October. Yeah, so about 4 months.
Yeah.
About 4 months.
Does it seem like 4 months, like it's gone really fast, or it's like forever?
It has gone fast. Everybody would tell me, it's going to go so fast, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it definitely has gone fast.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool. I want to come back to your present responsibilities and what you're learning and what's kind of happening right now in your life in the Army right now there. But before we do that, I want to kind of rewind a little bit, Connor, if that's okay. I'd love to know, how old are you right now?
21 years old now.
21 years old. And my question is when did you first have any type of desire to serve in the military? Is this something kind of recent in your life, or can you look back over earlier in your life when you might have had a little seed that's planted in different ways? I'm curious to know that.
Yeah, definitely. Gosh, I'm trying to think of a specific age.
Well, it doesn't have to be anything. Just
general.
General.
It's really been ever since I can remember.
Oh, wow.
It's obviously changed over the years. At first, I was fascinated with airplanes and being a fighter pilot and all that kind of stuff. And then as I grew up more, I realized that I didn't really want to do that. So it really changed into more interested in being in infantry, boots on the ground, that kind of thing. And so really branch of service, that was my biggest thing. Was I was dead set on, I'm going to join the Marine Corps. I wanted to be Marine since, I can remember. That was really the service that I wanted to be a part of, and be part of that brotherhood there. And
Connor, let's pause right there. I'm curious to know, do you know why the Marines was where your heart was sort of set and drawn to? I mean, do you remember, did you have like certain role models or a certain something about the Marines that caused you to kind of go there?
Yeah, definitely. My uncle, on my mom's side, he was in the Marine Corps, served in the Marine Corps, did active duty for 10 years, and then was reserves for another 10 years. But he really was the one that kind of showed me what a Marine was. Just the few, the proud, the Marines. That was the slogan that got me hooked. And I wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to be a part of that brotherhood, and be a part of that specific branch of the service. It was just attractive to me, that whole part, the few. Not a lot of people choose to be a part of the Marines. I felt that they were a higher standard than all the other branches, and I wanted to be a part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, did you have any like distant family members, like grandparents or just other friends or family members in the military at all, or was it just your uncle?
Really, I guess you could say in modern times, he was the only one.
Okay.
Of course, I had grandparents that served during World War II. I believe it was my great grandfather. He was in the Navy. And then my dad's stepdad, he served as a military police officer in his part in his life. But really, my uncle was the only one that I kind of like had a close connection with and could like really, I don't want to say relate because I wasn't in the service yet, but he was my example.
Yeah.
He was the prime example, and really the only one that I knew of in my actual family.
Yeah, that's great to see a modern day picture of a young boy looking up to his uncle and watching his example. And what you're saying is that as long as you can remember, so we're talking about like childhood, middle school, high school, all through that growing up, what you're saying is that you never really lost that desire or something in there that's like, this is what I think I want to do. And I mean, is that fair to say? Is that how do you describe it?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, there were times where, be like, oh, well, I'll just, become a firefighter or something like that. But that was me trying to take, there's not that there's anything wrong with being a firefighter, but that was me trying to, take the easy route, I guess you could say, and to, not actually. And we can go into that later, being able to pursue the dreams that I wanted.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to talk through that and get to that. I'm also thinking about like, not that this, I don't think this maybe had a huge impact on you, but our church, we place, I believe we place a very appropriate amount of respect and honor on the men and women who serve in the military, and and every Veterans Day, we got Veterans Day coming up in a couple of weeks, and you probably, as a young boy, can remember those Sundays where all those men, mostly men, would come down front, and right there in your own church, to have sort of a growing sense of pride in country and protection, and to be a part of a military force that fights for good and against evil. All those kind of things. I'm just wondering if you remember those days, kind of growing up.
Definitely, yeah, and kind of going, when you asked the question about family members in the service, I think about, okay, yeah, my uncle, but immediately my mind goes to those times at church. The only other really people that I know of that had served were in the church body, and that was the thing, was I know how much I respected those men and women for what they did, and answering that call, and I wanted that same respect. I wanted to be part of that brotherhood and be able to join them.
Yeah.
That was a huge, definitely huge. The church body, huge impact.
Wow. So their example, even in recognizing their service once a year or throughout the year in different ways, really called you up, didn't it? I mean, it set an example and called you up, and it gave you something to aspire to. That's what I hear you saying to me, is that this wasn't just some sort of little, like, you saw a movie and that was cool or whatever. I mean, this was like real life, and it really shaped you and formed you. And so that's cool. Let's kind of move on, because you said through all that time, it wasn't just the military in general, but there was a really laser beam focus on the Marines, a lot of your uncle's influence. So when the time comes, like, how do you go about making this decision? And tell us a little bit about that season and that time when you go, okay, I think I'm going to go for it, or I think I'm supposed to. I think the Lord's leading me. Like, there's a sense in which, I've lived this dream in my head. When was that? When did it happen? How did it happen for you? Kind of share a little bit of that part of the story for us.
Well, I mean, it's very interesting. Okay. So graduated high school, and this is kind of where those plans wavered, trying to take the easy road out, blah, 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 blah. I was not focused. I was kind of, lost in, okay, I just graduated high school. Now I got to take the next step. So, of course, went to college, just went to community college. I was working part-time, working construction part-time.
Right.
And I was really, really focused on getting out on my own and getting out from under, my parents' roof and being able to provide for myself. That's something that's very, very important to me. And so that was really my main focus, was really just making money and being able to provide for myself. And so that focus turned, okay, I got to go to school. So started going to school, realized that I still really didn't like school. And I quit going to school, and then started working construction full time. And while all that was going on, Josiah Kirby, my absolute best friend, he had made the decision and answered the call, and he joined the Marine Corps. And that really, really influenced me and got me rethinking.
Wow.
Like, dang,
was that a surprise? Was that a surprise to you? Did you not see that coming, or did y'all talk about it all the time, so you saw it, or what?
No, I mean, Josiah and I were friends, at church and stuff, but outside of church, we never really hung out, never really talked. And then I heard that he made this decision, and I was like, dang, that's something that I've been talking about my entire life, and this guy's jumped on it already.
Wow.
And,
okay, I see.
So I'm like, wake up call, really. Like, that's what it was. And I was like, dang, that's an option for me.
Yeah.
And so connected with him, realized that we were like best friends, and really gained an awesome friendship through that. And he hooked me up with his recruiter. And I went to his recruiter with him, and we started the enlistment process. Like, within, I would say probably 2 weeks of him, making that decision, I was like, all right, let's do it. I was all aboard.
Yeah. Now, did you two, if I remember correctly, or I don't remember, but did you start that process like exactly at the same time? I couldn't remember. Like,
no, he started a few months before me.
Okay.
But he went into, I can't remember what it's called, but basically, so he enlisted, signed papers, swore in, and all that stuff. But his actual date for him to go to boot camp was delayed. DEP program. It's a delayed entry program.
Okay.
That's what it's called. So I think he enlisted, like April, maybe.
Yeah.
And then his actual leave date was not until December.
Okay.
So somewhere around, June probably is when he and I really started talking. And then going into July, August maybe is when I was like, all right, let's do this.
Yeah, right. And so this period of time, which you described as wavering, and that was using your word, was this like a year or two, couple years, 2 or 3 years? I mean, how long are we talking about here?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I graduated high school in 2013. And I started going to college the next semester and working. But I was just kind of, I don't know, I was kind of mad at myself because I didn't really try as hard as I should have in high school. Didn't really make the grades. I got accepted to a few colleges, but they were just too expensive, and I wanted to be able to, do that for myself, to, not put that burden on my parents and things like that. And so I decided to go to community college, and the whole time I was in college, it was just, I really hate school. I'm not motivated to do this. It was a maturity thing, definitely. I was not mature enough to discipline myself to, put the time in for schoolwork.
Well,
and
it also sounds like not only a maturity thing, but it sounds like you were kind of a fish out of water in that you had this dream that you'd had all your life, and you're training for something different than what you've been dreaming and maybe called to and designed for. It's like, sometimes it's hard to get motivated and stay motivated when you feel purposeless. You're not really focused on a purpose, and you're convinced that this is what God called me for and made me for, and this is where my heart is. Is that true, or is that unfair?
No, that's completely fair.
Okay.
I mean, I was seriously, the best way to describe it was just lost and fish out of water, definitely. And it was tough to see all my friends go off to college and have a college experience, and here I am still stuck at home. Literally all my friends went off to college.
I see.
And so I'm having to, transition into trying to make new friends and trying to do college and trying to work and make money, and I just fish out of water completely. You got that, hit the nail on the head.
Right. Well, speaking of friends going off to college, I mean, your girlfriend went off to college, right? I mean, that's kind of in the that's in the mix there too, right?
Yeah. So her first year, well, her senior year and my freshman year of college, her senior year of high school, she did dual enrollment. So she was 100% going to KSU. She was doing all her classes there and all that kind of stuff. And she was having somewhat of a college experience while she was still in high school.
Right.
But that was easy because she was here, at the house. And but then the following semester, so she only did one semester there. The following semester, the next fall semester, she went off to UGA. And then I was really alone. Like,
okay.
like I didn't know what to do with myself. I had no time. Yeah. And that's when I stopped going to college and completely just started doing construction, worked construction full time.
Right. Now, as far as you use the word, fish out of water, wavering in all this, were you innately aware that you were wavering? Were you cognizant and conscious that, I really should be doing that, but I'm scared. I'm chickened out. I'm wimping out, or whatever the words, Or is it something like you didn't really know it, but all of a sudden through a series of circumstances it snapped. You're going, wait a minute, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I mean, like, which one is it?
No, it was me just running away from buckling down.
Okay.
I still wanted to be a kid.
Okay.
Still wanted to, because I had an awesome high school experience.
Right.
I loved my high school, had an awesome group of friends, but I still was acting like I was in high school.
Gotcha.
That's the bottom line. Like, looking back on it now, it's embarrassing. But yeah, I was completely just lost and running away from manning up and doing what I needed to do.
Wow. Yeah, that's a good insight there, Connor. And it sounds like Josiah and his decision, it sounds like he kind of challenged you and woke you up, but he didn't even know it. I mean, it wasn't like he was intended to do that. Is that true?
Oh, that's completely, it's to this day, I don't even know if he knows that or not. I probably should tell him that, but, we talk, almost every other day still, but, him making that step, that was what, like, the light bulb went off. And I was like, holy crap, he's getting his life together. So what am I going to do now?
That's so good. I love to hear that story. I love to hear you share it, just about, how a friend can, iron sharpens iron, brother to brother, and sometimes we don't even know that, sometimes we intend to, man up and challenge our brother and look, something's not right here. But other times we just making decision and going about life, and God just uses all that, right?
Yeah, definitely.
In each other's lives. Well, let's move forward. Like, so you Josiah and you, like, okay, here's what you need to do. And you get this process started, and man, your dream's coming true. I mean, it's like you're set on enlisting in the Marines. You go through the paperwork. I mean, like, just kind of take us through that, like, and how it all happened.
Yeah. So, went in with Josiah originally, started the enlistment process. Anybody that's gone through the service before knows what a pain in the butt it is.
Yeah.
So it starts off, you meet with your recruiter. They ask you a bunch of questions, personal questions, about, speeding tickets, getting arrested. And then it dives into your medical history. And, then obviously just basic information, Social Security, all that kind of stuff. So, went in, spent about 2 days doing that, filling all that stuff out. And from there, I needed to take the ASVAB, which is the test that basically it tests a whole bunch of areas, math, reading, mechanical, all that kind of stuff. And so had to take that, took that a few days later. I scored pretty decent on it, which I was surprised because I hadn't done math in, a few months. And
yeah.
So I scored pretty well on that. And that's really when I started thinking, like, okay, maybe this really is what I need to be doing. Maybe this is, like, the right call. And so I was getting more confident in that and getting more excited and anxious and all that kind of stuff. And then my recruiter called me and he was like, "Hey man, there's a problem with your shoulder." Cause I had my senior year of high school after football season. I had a shoulder surgery, due to multiple dislocations during football season, things like that. And so, had the surgery in March of my senior year, didn't think anything of it. Fast forward to the enlistment process, and he's telling me I need to go get a medical waiver for me to get approved. And so this is when the long, drawn-out period starts.
Okay.
I'm like, well, crap. So this multiple trips to my doctor who did the surgery, getting waivers of him saying, hey, his shoulder's 100%. No more dislocations, blah, 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 blah. Had to get photographs of the surgery. I mean, everything. It was ridiculous. So got all that paperwork turned in, and then the waiting process happened.
Are we talking about weeks or months or what?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, weeks. I think it was before I heard anything back. I think it was probably a month to 5 weeks until I heard anything back. Okay. And I remember exactly where I was. Again, I was working construction full time. I was up in Johnson City, Tennessee, in a Home Depot parking lot. Okay. Waiting for one of my coworkers to come out. And I got the call from my recruiter. I saw it was my recruiter. We've been waiting 5 weeks for this. I'm really excited. And he calls me and he's like, "Hey man, he kind of mumbled. He was like, "Hey man, they blah, blah, blah approved you." And all I heard was, "Hey man, they approved you." And I was like, "What? Are you serious? I'm so excited." Like, blah, blah, blah. And I rant for 30 seconds, like, "Thank you so much, blah, blah, blah." And he's like, "No, dude, they didn't approve you." Oh. And I was like, oh man, that was a bad day. Wow. That was a bad day. I'm like, holy crap. Like, I've already told my boss, like, what I'm doing and all this stuff. And man, okay, so yeah, this is like, it was bad. It was really, really bad.
Now, are you able to share like why they didn't improve you, or like the summary of what's the problem and all?
It was the shoulder surgery. Okay. Everything I've come to find out, everything about being in the military boils down, not everything, but a lot of it boils down to liability. Like everything that safety briefs and blah, 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 liability.
Gotcha.
And my shoulder being compromised in the past was a liability. It doesn't matter, who looks at it or not. It's been tore up before. chances are it could get tore up again, which I completely understand.
Yeah. Well, you understood it in your head, but that had to be a low point in that parking lot of Home Depot, right?
Oh yeah, that was the worst, and it was just like I was tore up. I mean, I was, 18 or 19 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was 19 at the time, and I was tore up about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like childhood dreams crushed.
Yeah.
Right there in the Home Depot parking lot.
Yeah.
And so like, okay, there's something I got to do. So after a few phone calls and talking to my recruiter and things like that, he was like, well, you can do a rebuttal and try and do a rebuttal process, but if they deny you again, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
And which to this day, I don't know how true that is or not. But so here we go again, starting the process pretty much from scratch again with the whole medical waiver and things like that.
With the Marines.
With the Marines, yeah. So did it all over again and got denied again a few months later.
Oh, wow.
Which I was kind of like halfway expecting that. I didn't get my hopes up like I did last time because I didn't know how serious of an issue that was. Mm-hmm. And so, so crushed again, was tore up about it. And then my dad was reading articles online and things like that about how you can contact your congressman up in D.C. and he can write a recommendation or something.
Right.
So me and my dad drafted this letter to our congressman so this is the congressman up in D.C. And we got his contact information from a good friend from Dominion, my high school that I went to, Earl Earhart, and he set us up with him and got to talk to him, laid out my case, and he, a few days later, wrote me a recommendation on, hey, this guy deserves to, join. So sent that up. It was probably a couple of weeks later, maybe 2 weeks later, again, shot down.
Wow.
And this time it was a letter from like the head honcho of the recruiting.
Wow.
Up in Virginia. So
three strikes you're out kind of thing. I mean, like how do you move forward from that? Because it's like
exactly,
it's like they're trying to get the point across, and you've done everything you can to try to get the waiver and recommendation, and so then the third time you get this news. So how do you move on from there? Well,
through that horrible, awful recruitment process, I did realize, okay, military is what I want to do. I want to try it out. I mean, I want to do this.
Even in the midst of the rejection and the medical problem and all of that, you're still convinced, even in the midst of that. Yeah, I mean, I was going back and forth because once I got denied from the Marine Corps, the Navy has the same. It's Navy doctors because the Marine Corps is a division of the Navy. So I knew that Marine Corps and Navy were out for me then. Okay,
like done. So I had Coast Guard, Air Force, and Army. And I always have said, I will never join the Army. I will never join the Army. And I don't know why. Like, to this day, I don't know why. I don't. That's the arrogance. I mean, that was just, it was, and
that's great. Yeah.
And it's funny how it came back and bit me in the butt.
Well, that brings this episode to a close. And I hope that every word that you've heard in this conversation with Connor McDuffie has been a blessing to you and has benefited you. And let me encourage you to pray for Connor as he serves our country in the armed forces, in the Army in Anchorage, Alaska. Thanks for joining us for the Grace Again podcast program. And be sure to tune in to the next episode of the Grace Again podcast. Goodbye. Be sure to tune in to the rest of the conversation in the next episode of the Grace Again podcast.